Hey folks, I'm Spencer and this is Cult Mania, and today we are talking about one of the absolute classics of Blaxploitation cinema, Foxy Brown.
Foxy Brown. Rated R.
Written and directed by Jack Hill, Foxy Brown would see him re-team with Blaxploitation icon Pam Grier, who he'd worked with on 4 previous films. The most notable of these collaborations was Coffee, a film that would pretty much become the prototype for films like Foxy Brown and many other female-led Blaxploitation films that would follow.
Pam Grier, that one chick hit squad who creamed you as coffee.
Foxy Brown was initially even conceived as a sequel to Coffee, entitled Burn Coffee Burn, but at the last minute this was changed to make Foxy Brown a standalone film. This is notably why Foxy doesn't have a job, because they'd cut out that Coffee was a nurse and then never filled in the gap.
You tell me who you want done, and I'll do the hell out of it.
The plot centres around Grier as the titular Foxy Brown, as she wages a one-woman war against the drug syndicate that murdered her boyfriend, an undercover cop. But even before he's murdered and she sets out for revenge, we know that Foxy's not someone to be messed around with. In the introductory scene, she rescues her drug-peddling brother from the same goons that she's going to be hunting for the rest of the film. But in this opening scene, she uses her own car as a weapon, including sending one of the goons bonnet surfing. And it's just awesome and doesn't seem like how this film should start, but it's amazing anyway. So why wouldn't you?
Sounds like a public menace.
Sure do.
Her brother is played by Antonio Fargas, a couple of years before he'd go on to become famous as Huggy Bear in Starsky and Hutch. The storyline is relatively solid, although I think I did pick up on a couple of plot holes on this watch through. And it is very predictable. I don't think there's anything that's going to catch you by surprise if you've seen any other films like this. But that being said, Jack Hill is a very competent director and he keeps the script moving along at a pace. There's never too long without anything of importance happening.
When Foxy Brown comes to town, all the brothers gather round.
The film's just pretty well executed overall. And I am going to have to give a shout out to the main villains in this film. They are absolutely detestable. And you are just waiting for Foxy Brown to give them an absolute tatering.
That woman, she's crazy.
The plot was never going to be the reason to see Foxy Brown. The reason to see Foxy Brown is because Pam Grier is in it. Because she is made to play roles like this. She's just brilliant as strong, badass women that were never going to take no for an answer. I mean, in this film, she literally, moments after her boyfriend is shot, is kicking down doors, pointing guns in faces and trying to get to the bottom of it, and it's just amazing to see. I mean, I do really think that you believe that she could kick your head in. I mean, the film doesn't give her, like, amazing dialogue to play around with. There are no sweeping monologues. I think the one at the end is perhaps her weakest point of performance. But this isn't what this film's about. It's about badass one-liners and beating people up with bar stools. And Pam Grier does that better than anyone else.
And I got my black belt in bar stools.
In my opinion, Pam Grier is one of the first truly great female action stars, and although a lot of her films are swept under this umbrella of just being trashy exploitation, we wouldn't have so many of the great action movie heroines and strong, amazing female characters we have today without these sorts of films. And I really hope that people continue to appreciate them. Speaking of action, the film has plenty of capably handled action sequences. I mean, there's nothing particularly groundbreaking or explosive here, apart from that we do get death by propeller blade quite a few years before you get that in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I think that's pretty cool. It is just a shame that you feel like there were perhaps slightly bigger action sequences planned and that the budget just wouldn't stretch for them. Foxy Brown is sort of on the mid to low tier budget-wise for blaxploitation films. I mean, it's nowhere near the budget of Shaft. I think that was probably made for at least twice as much as Foxy Brown. But it's not as cheap and cheerful as something like Dolomite is. I think a lot of this is helped by the fact that Jack Hill had been working in exploitation cinema for so long that he understood how to get the most out of a minuscule budget. I just think there was perhaps a little bit more planned for the ending of Foxy Brown.
Justice for all of them.
I'm going to have to just have a little moment to gush over the fantastic costumes in this film. I mean, Pam Grier got her own stylist for this film, which tells you something. I mean, she gets a brand new outfit after pretty much every scene, and none of them are anything other than spectacular. I think so much of this is what makes Foxy Brown and any other Pam Grier film so iconic, is just they know exactly how to dress her, and she just always looks amazing.
She's sweet brown sugar with a touch of spice.
Do you think perhaps that the one area that the film is a little bit lacking when it's compared to its genre of bedfellows is in its soundtrack? There's nothing particularly wrong with Willie Hutch's score. The theme's pretty good, and when you pair it with the sort of solarised intro sequence, it works very well, but it's just not that memorable. None of the score is very memorable when you compare it with something like Shaft or Black Caesar. Whilst we're discussing the more negative aspects of the film, I want to go into a little bit of detail on the scene where I think the whole film just sort of weirdly falls apart. In perhaps the last third of the film, there's a sequence where Foxy's taken to somewhere called the Ranch. While she's here, she's threatened, molested and abused off screen by two of the ranch hands. And while this scene isn't particularly graphic in nudity or violence, it has two really weird problems. Firstly, this sequence just feels really out of place. I mean, this is a film about a badass black woman taking down bad guys. I don't imagine anyone watching the film was thinking what this film needs is a scene in which our heroine is tied to a bed and molested by greasy old men. Secondly, while the film isn't particularly graphic, like I said, in terms of what you see, there is still something really skew-if about it. I think it, in large part, comes down to some of the dialogue in this scene, and the way it's acted is just a bit off. It doesn't land in a way that you particularly want it to. It feels weirdly balanced between being a bit too real and a bit too cartoonish at the same time. It just feels like a little bit more nuance would have gone a long way here. I think this scene was added purely because Last House on the Left had come out and become such a huge drive-in hit that perhaps the producers were trying to chase a little bit more that angle, but it just doesn't work. This isn't the sort of film that needs that. And I think it's a real shame, because I think the scene detracts from... This is going to sound really strange, but I think you could see Foxy Brown as being quite a feminist film. I mean, Foxy's an incredibly strong character. She is in control so often. She's in control of her own sexuality up until this point.
If you see a man anywhere, send him in, because I do need a man.
The nudity in the film isn't gratuitous or excessive. There isn't a lot of sex that can get in the way of that sort of thing. So this scene just... I don't know. I think it just either needed to be handled better or needed to be cut out. I'd go for handle it better, because the scene of revenge that Foxy has later on against the two creepy blokes is brilliant and it feels earned. It's just a shame that the scene before it doesn't work and should not be there.
Chick with drive, who don't take no jive.
Don't let this dissuade you from seeing the film. The film is a lot of fun overall, and I don't think that scene gets in the way particularly. I mean, after this scene you get the big huge finale, and you get one of the best action sequences you get in this sort of low budget exploitation cinema, and the final confrontation has one of the best lines of dialogue in any film, in my opinion. It's just great.
Foxy's got guts.
Also, the last couple of scenes, you get Sid Haig, and who doesn't want that? There are a lot of reasons to watch Foxy Brown, but the only one you need is that Pam Grier is in it. She is an absolute exploitation movie star, and everything that makes her great is on show here. If you've never seen any of her films, this is the perfect place to start. She's such a magnetic screen presence. To be honest, when I grow up, I want to be Pam Grier. She's amazing.
No fear, Pam Grier is here.
I really, really wish that we had more films like this these days. I just think it exists in this perfect little balance of being a low-budget film that has big ideas and has a huge performance. Anyway, that's just my opinion on the film. Have you seen Foxy Brown? Is it now going on your watch list? Would you like to see more reviews of Blaxploitation films on the channel? Why not let me know down in the comments? Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.